Alright guys, so we got the 224 sitting right here. So what we're going to do is I came up with an idea to cut this front. I'm trying to figure out a way, so because with the grinding wheel and everything, to cut this front piece here, it can be kind of tricky for the fact that the size of the disc. And so I was trying to come up with a better way to cut these and be a lot easier. And I figured something out that I use every day is one of these oscillator tools, and this is just like one of them blades that's made to cut like nails, wood, basically metal and wood, and it cuts this stuff pretty well. And with using this, you're actually able to get your angle in there and get a nice clean cut this way, and it makes it easier to cut it straight through from the bottom side going up. So we're going to attempt to use this. I haven't done it yet, but I tested the blade out on another block just to see how well it cut that, and it seemed to cut it pretty good. So we're going to give this a shot, because if this works, this makes it a lot easier to cut this. And you can pick these things up, like mine's just a Harbor Freight one with the Bauer. I have Bauer batteries, so that's why I have this, but there's ones that have cords on it, they don't cost that much. But I think this is going to be a really good way of cutting through this, so we'll go ahead and we'll be giving that a shot. Now, when you buy your motor brand new, you gotta get your side cover off. This motor's been used, so the gasket may rip, so I picked up some ultra black gasket maker. But I'm gonna try to take this off without damaging the gasket. Or you can just, if you know you're about to do this, I'm sure there's a way to order this gasket for this. So we'll go ahead and gotta get the side cover pulled off. What I do to get the oil out is I take a cardboard box, put a trash bag in it, and then I'll pop all the bolts but the one bottom one, and then I'll hang the motor off the side and just let all that oil drain right into here. I was just gonna drain it through the front drain plug, but you gotta get all the oil out, and so I might as well just pop that so if there's anything left, because if you drain it from here, you may still have some sitting up in the side case and it gets everywhere, so it's just a little bit easier. And the other thing too is you don't have to put this bolt back in. If you're gonna do your oil change, you can either do it from the, I've done it from the side cover, because you're never gonna take that off without pulling the motor out. So if you gotta pull the motor out, there's always a drain plug back here in the bottom. So you could actually JB weld this. I could use my TIG welder and just TIG the hole shut. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it yet. When we get there, we'll do it. But just to say, put that out there, that you don't have to technically put this bolt, because the problem is this bolt's so long. You go and you trim this down to fit in there, but then the head of this bolt's so freaking long that it what do you want to call it, like takes up the space that you're trying to gain on it. So I've done in the past, I've also cut this down to where you can just get a socket on it, just enough to put a socket on it to tighten it down, and then grind it smooth. I've done that a lot, which I may do that. You put a little bit of gasket maker on the threads, screw it in, it seems to work, but like I say, JB weld it. But we'll go ahead and I'll get this reset up, and then we'll get the oil out of it, and then we'll start. I'll show you how I mark my lines where I cut at, and where you still know you still have some threads left. So alright, and also too, I forgot to mention, the reason I pulled this side cover off is for the fact that I can plug the hole from the inside in. That way when you're cutting this, you get any kind of junk that comes through, it's not just going to get inside the block. And that way, and then when you're done, I just shove the rag back through the hole, and it actually cleans the hole out. And it just minimizes anything from getting inside there. So that's the main reason why I pulled the side cover off. And like I said, when you pull the side cover off, I think I said that in one of my videos, that you get a screwdriver and catch that cam. So when you pull this out, because sometimes that cam will get caught into here, and if it gets caught, you're going to pull the cam out, which then your push rods are going to fall through, and then you got to go through and reset all that. So I usually crack it loose, stick a screwdriver in there, kind of hold it, and just kind of wiggle the case, wiggle the side cover a little bit, and usually it'll pop loose, and then that way that doesn't fall out. So we'll go ahead and just start taking this off now. Now just when you got it, as soon as you got it cracked loose, all the oil drained down in there, I'm gonna just go around and make sure that gasket's not hung up anywhere, because the gasket will be stuck to your side cover and also to the block in some places, and that's how you end up ripping the gasket. So if you just go around and just kind of pop the gasket loose from the block, then you usually it'll come right off without having any issues. You just don't want to just grab the side cover and try to rip it off. Yeah, see, this one I got lucky and the cam didn't get stuck right there, and I was able to slip it off without ripping the gasket. So we're good on that. And something I was going to point out too, if you when you get the side cover off, it's always there. With these motors, I rarely ever see them off timed, but if you look right, you see that there's a dot right there and a dot on the cam, or a cam in the crank. Them dots need to line right up, and that means you're in time. The Lifen motors I've had that problem with, but never with these motors. So that was just one other thing I wanted to point out to check. Well, since you got the side cover off anyways, might as well check it. The good thing is I've ran this motor for a good minute in that mini bike, and there's barely any metal in the oil. You're gonna see a little bit of glitter with any of these motors, you always will. But you don't want it to see it being completely chunked up with metal or big chunks or anything in there. But a little bit's usually, you're gonna have that no matter what. So we'll go ahead and pull the drain plug. I'll just grab a rag and kind of wipe the surface stuff off. I just try to get as much as I can, that way when you're working on it, you're not having oil dumping in your lap or all over the stuff you're working on. You're never going to get it all, but... So, you can either use paper towel and plug this whole entire hole up, or you can do, on Amazon, they sell these kits. They're rubber plugs, and they're good for painting and basically plugging any hole up that you need to plug up. What I found out, they work pretty stinking well, and what I do is, turn my flashlight on. As you can see that yellow plug right there inside there, you just plug it from the inside right there, and now when you're all done cutting it, you just pop that out, and then I'll take the air compressor and take the spray nozzle and just blow air through there and blow everything out. So, because what you're trying to do is just minimizing anything from getting inside the block itself. So now, with that said, what I've done is I made my lines right there. Now, when you cut this, you don't have to go so big. You pretty much, you want to go at an angle like this. Less is better, because you can always take off less of it than actually having to put it back on. You can't really put it back on. So I would just trim it to where you think it'll fit, and then try to fit it. If it fits, then you know you're good. But if you go to put it in and you realize the bottom tube of the frame isn't going, if this is not fitting around the tube, then you know you need to take off a little bit more, and it shows you where you need to take off a little bit more. So that's I've done enough of these that I kind of know where I need to be. And you also don't want to take off too much to where your bolt holes are, that you end up taking too much from there, because then you risk a chance of having a crack or something happening to the block. And then on the bottom side, on these. This piece right here goes all the way down to here. Let's see if I get the camera a little closer. So on this right here, you can see how this is like a little cylinder. It goes on here. Now this has threads pretty much all the way through it, all the way to the end. This line right here is pretty much the base of the block right at the end. And what I do is I just come up right above that, and that's where I'll end up making my cut. Now I won't cut this until I do my other cuts, because that'll line me up right where I need to be, and then you'll actually see where the where you stop here, because you know you ain't gonna drill, you're not gonna cut into the block from this side, and it kind of will give you a guideline where it's gonna be. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be right about there. So we'll go ahead and make that cut there, make this cut here, and then we'll tip this up and we'll cut straight across. And like I said, if this isolating saw actually works like I think it's gonna work, this is gonna be pretty stinking easy, because when you use the cutting disc and you cut this way and you cut this way, well, cutting this piece in gets kind of difficult because you risk the chance of cutting into the other part of the block where you don't want to cut. So this should make life a lot easier. So I'll go ahead and get these cut real quick, and then we'll go ahead and cut that, and if this works, it's going to be pretty freaking easy. It's nothing to it. Alright, so that actually worked really well. Now I got my cuts going inwards, so we'll go ahead and tip the block up, and we'll go ahead and cut that part. Also too, if you wanted to, just so it helps you out, after you plug this hole, you can put the side cover back on. Just put like 1 or 2 bolts on. That way it holds the cam in there. I was just using my thumb to hold it, but you can just put the side cover on to make it a little bit easier. Now since I got these two cut, got the bottom cut, I should be able to just tap this. What I'll actually do is I'll put a little cut right here, right on top of here, and that way it's got a little guideline to when it snap it off, because you should be able to just take a hammer and tap this and it should just break right off, and then we'll come back with the Dremel and clean it up. Alright, let me grab a hammer. Now you don't want to hit it hard, nothing crazy like that. If it's not coming off, you want to just cut a little bit more. See, just like that. And now the whole piece is right off. I didn't have to hit it very hard, And now this is what it looks like. That isolating saw makes this a lot easier to do. That's going to be so much more easier. Just come in and clean this up a little bit, and we should have a nice mating surface for the bolt. Or like I said, we can just plug this hole off because this hole is not needed anymore. Alright, so now we go ahead and just gently pop out this plug. And you can see the plug pretty much cut a lot of it. And then we'll just take a little piece of paper towel just in case. Wipe that down right there. And then we'll just take it to the airline and shoot a little bit of air through it. There we go. Now all that gunk and everything that was in there is out of the hole. You should be able to still so we'll go ahead. I don't think I'm going to use the original bolt. I think I'm going to plug this thing off. Because like I said, I'm never going to change the oil this way because you got to pull the motor, and if I'm going to pull the motor, there's still a drain plug in the rear end of it, so it's easier just to pop the 30 series off and crack the side case up and let the oil fall out. And here's one of these holes. Yeah, so I'll probably just JB weld this hole shut, let it sit for the 24 hours. So we can go ahead now and pop the side cover back on. Alright, so that's all we have to do is just plug that off. But now this motor should actually fit up inside the frame, so I'll go ahead and take this over there and I'll set it on there and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright guys, actually I was wrong about the valve cover. I thought maybe the valve cover was going to be, because I know with 212s you got to dent the valve cover in. I was able to trim enough off the front of this motor to where now there's a very, it's tiny, but there is a gap right in there. So we just got to dent that cover in just a tiny bit. And then here's the front. This is what it looks like. It's tucked right up in there. So we'll be able to run that. And then these are just some basic, these are the ones I used to run. It's 2x2 square tubing. I think I'm going to have to go back to the 2x2. But I had some 1 inch by 1 inch, and basically just cut it, marked my holes for down here, drilled the bottom holes and then the upper holes. I want to see if I can run this now. The only problem I may run into is the reason I had to have at that time was the fact that the 30 series, when it comes off, it was smacking on the it was smacking on something. I can't exactly remember what, because it's been a couple years since I had that set up. Well, I'm gonna try it with the 1-inch because it also brings the motor down a little bit. So I hope this video helps you guys. There's gonna be a lot more coming. We can go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and JB weld that tonight and let that sit overnight so that hardens up, and then we can go ahead and start putting this thing back together. And gotta get the rear wheel on so we can get the 30 series on, so I know exactly where that motor needs to sit inside that frame, because the motor has to be, for the 30 series, it has to be offset just a tiny bit that way. So that's all we have to do. So we'll go ahead on the next video. We'll get the front forks put back on, and front wheel and everything, handlebars, and then we'll get the rear rim put on, and then we'll start lining this motor up with the 30 series on there, and we'll go from there, and then we'll be able to take this thing out for its first ride. I've never done a 224 on one of these. I've always had, the biggest was a 212, so I think it should be pretty fun. Probably going to make a new exhaust because this exhaust comes out way too far. We'll make a new one that, like I used to have, where it curves in really sharp and then goes down, comes down the frame right here. So we'll be changing that out. And this does have a 25mm carb on it, so. And then, like I said, on the mini bike, this motor is pretty fast. So I hope you guys like this video. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.